process.
In the memories, for me, the film is very much about looking back. And the book deal was, the process of writing was such a godsend because it was really Bethann. I could watch her going back to those memories, and she would tell me, like, sometimes it's, it's a roller coaster, or sometimes it's like interesting, more memories come, and you could see it on the screen. So it was wonderful to watch.
Yeah. To me, Bethann has a skill that is very unique in her storytelling. I mean, if you just sat with her and asked prompts, just prompts, the magic of the stories and the way she tells them just kill you, right?
Yes.
So when she walked in and she started talking, I said, please stop. Please stop. Well, I'm not wasting this. It was nothing. I'm just saying hello. And I was like, stop. So I'm so happy to share just your regular conversation, which everybody wants to capture.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more about the film, because I loved it. I loved it so much. Not because I know you, not because I know your story and how you evolved. And I want to talk about that from this young woman who was this model that was so cutting edge and ahead of everybody, actually ahead of all the other models in my mind. Did your whole look, your whole attitude, and how you carved the path. There's never going to be a Bethann again, and there never was one before. Just not going to happen. That's it. So knowing all of that, and then seeing this film and being in audiences where I can feel what's happening to everybody, and it was happening to me too, and I knew everything. Like, none of it was a surprise. But the way it was done, the power of it, and all the little touches that made her a part of your family, a part of your world, somebody you know. I'm sure everybody that meets you thinks of you as somebody in their family, right? Well, every model or every talent that's ever worked with you either adopted you or you adopted them. So what is that? Why do you think that is?
I think it's, like I say to many people when they ask you about yourself that way, I always say it's just how you come on earth. It's just who you are, that things are put into it's almost like a bottle that's put into your body, and whatever comes out that makes a human being a human being. You already come to earth with that. I couldn't explain it. It's not something you can visualize before and do. It's off the cuff, really, honestly. And, I am very, I realized too, especially after the film came out and you get the chance to see yourself. I also recognize the fact that I learned a lot about myself, and I am unique. That I've learned too. And I've learned that over a period of time, but never at the time I was being something that was cutting edge or doing things that, when you get written up in the newspapers with the other girls that you're the Black Stallions, and that's in the 70s, and you do Versailles and do all these different things. It is unique in that way. But when you're in the throes of it, it's just another moment in time. Mm-hmm. It's only when you reflect back and look at everything, you can naturally compare the differences of who and who isn't.
Yeah.
That's when you begin to see what you've done.
Yeah.
And how people regard you, how people speak of you, how people regard you in a way that you were so kind to them when you had to say no to them, or how your manners were, and all the characters. Those are things that I'm beginning to reap more and more and more about. And now at a certain time on earth, you just can let go of things that don't work, and things that, friends that, relationships that end. You don't even know why, but they just no longer. You let go and you just embrace what is around you, because you have less time to mingle as you did before.
Yeah. I think an observation that is really worth telling because, I was present at this time. I was aware of all the subtleties of the time. And not only, did you embrace everyone, but everyone embraced you. And it wasn't because of the color of your skin. It was because there was this powerful human being who just grabbed everybody's heart, and they didn't know that they were being grabbed, and they just fell in love with you. And so everything that you've earned, literally, was the power of your will, the bravery of being, I think it was braver to be a model with your look, right? In that time,
Yeah, very much
with
so.
your attitude at that time, not having to do with color, but having to do with style and your attitude. I thought you were so off the charts, like, whoa, she's on her own path. And nobody, there was the press talking about color. There was some of that, but nobody, especially when you were making your way through the fashion industry, nobody talked about you by an identity. They talked about you by the personal human contact that embraced everybody, which gave you tremendous power. And nobody thought of you as power, but they knew you had power. And I remember observing that and just being totally blown away. And your relationships with people are so intense and dynamic. Willie Smith, Tukey, Naomi. There are
Stephen
people
Burrows,
in your
really,
lives that are so connected, more than family, I think, in a lot of cases.
Oh yeah, I'm an only child, first of all, so it's really perfect.
Are you really?
Yeah, my mother was an only child. We're narrow. I have a narrow path of lots of people. So not having people around is easy, and gathering people for me is easy. And it's very nice to be able to have, those choices of folks as well. And that's why I always say that Willie and Stephen Burrows was really my pillars of opportunity and strength, because they both individually let me grow and believe, and they let me become all who I was too. Constantly showing your capabilities. Rosa Rubenstein, who was, Stephen Burrows' assistant, she was like his right hand. She brought me into the company when he left Bendel's and went on 7th Avenue. And I was just a, showroom girl. And she taught me so many details of things.
Oh, that's right.
Taught me so many little things, how to, and I had learned a lot of things before working in low end dresses and junior dresses, from, doing things like a switchboard operator to piece goods operations assistant, so many things I grew up in the garment business with. And I think that was really kind of a great thing. So the most basic things, when I started my business, I had no business experience per se. I just knew how to answer a phone, file. But the fear of opening your agency and doing things like that was big. And doing it in being so determined to do it in a neighborhood that I didn't want to have what they call that lighting that's above like this, not this, but it's a different kind of lighting. And I just didn't want to have an office like that. So I took myself down to Tribeca, which was just old factories.
Oh my God.
And rats. Rats and old factories.
No, it was totally.
It was such a different time, right? And so for me to do that and to know that I had to start this agency, I just wanted to make sure that I do it in the most natural way, that we didn't have that overhead lighting, that we had spot, and have people wanting me to maybe work for them after I had left Click. Johnny Casablanca saying, well, don't worry, I'll just guide you, I'll help you. And he did that from a distance, if I had any questions, any problems, I called Elite, speak to Johnny, It was really an interesting time to come along and be that person. Only as you grow and you get to this stage do you realize how great you obviously are to have done all those things.
Yeah,
and like you said, to be that person who
Yeah.
was so different looking to come along, that took courage
you
to have
oh
one
my
person
God.
that likes you
Yeah,
as a designer.
no,
Yeah.
you were bold. You had incredible courage, but you also like a lot of people from our generation were not afraid to do menial jobs to just get in the door. We were strategic.
That was the norm.
We were strategic. Like we did. How do I get in there? What do I do? I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to get this done, and they're going to remember me.
Well, see, this is different. I think that's true for you. I think that that's very true for you. For me, it wasn't like that. I think for you, you had to survive. And for me, I was just bouncing right along.
No, but
it looks like it. I think in the results of everything, when I tell the audiences, I didn't think that I had a story. People are like, you've got to be kidding. I said, yeah, but that's because you just finished watching this. When I watched that too, I said, wow. But for me, I wasn't ambitious at all.
No, but you did anything and everything.
No,
there
that
wasn't
was a norm.
anything like, yeah, but because that was, you did whatever because that's how you knew what was going on. That's how you were
educated that way.
Yeah. I mean, and you weren't held responsible for the company or it was somebody else's responsible.
That's
so
true.
I can really just sit here and absorb.
Learn. Yeah.
But also when you take something on, you do it really well. I've noticed that in the film, like Bethann doesn't do things halfway at all. And she works really hard. She could go around saying that she's lazy, but I've experienced that
I know.
Oh,
it's the opposite.
I've heard that too.
When she has a goal, when she needs to do something, she wants to keep it, very high and just do it well. And so I'm assuming that's how you approached your career before you met me also.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's a very true thing. I think what the problem is that we don't have now because we've been, people are so overexposed to so much. We didn't have that opportunity to be so exposed. We just basically got trained by people. And we were so happy to get in the door at working, and someone said, come, you can work here. But mostly because they needed somebody. So if you
Nobody was doing you a favor. It was just like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was so much more important to sort of like be able to get in there and start having a job and working. And you learn things along. You didn't say to somebody, I don't do that. No. People today really believe they can be their boss tomorrow. And that's not true. I'm trying to educate a lot of young talent to not always feel you have to open your own business. Go work for someone else first. As you said just before, let someone else take on the responsibility of a company while you absorb.
Especially
and that's
now.
That's how designers can come into. They want to work in Europe. Well, do something so phenomenal that they recognize your work ethic so they can bring you to the company.
And the other part of it is, I fortunately fell on my face in quiet because I didn't become famous for 14 years. I was scrambling around, building my business, making mistakes, looking like an idiot to a handful of people. Now everybody wants to have a big show right away, bum, bum, bum. And then it goes wrong. It's hard to erase that.
That's right.
So hard to erase it. So the years of evolution, I mean, so if you think about your evolution, and you guys worked on this, the evolution started with fashion, right? In the fashion industry, then as a model, like true out model. And then what happened next and next? What was the thread?
It's interesting you say that. The evolution for me started in the garment industry. I never give fashion any credit.
Right. It wasn't the fashion industry then, by the way.
That's right. I tell everybody that.
No.
I keep saying, you don't keep saying fashion. Let me just correct you. Give the garment industry some credit. Because that's how we grew up. We grew up with racks of clothes running past us rushing it, doing the most. I started in a button factory, a custom button factory, where they painted buttons to go on which back in the day was suits and coats was a big moment.
And I'm sure the smell of the toxic paint was outrageous. And now you would go to jail for it.
No.
And meanwhile, you're snipping the buttons.
But you know, it's interesting. My boss who hired me thought when you get back then you found out about jobs in the New York Times. They had
the Times was everything.
That was the time. If you want to find out about a job, you go look up in the New York Times. So I got this job, go to my company, and the man just looked at me and he said, and this is a button factory. He said, "You can't come dressed like that. I want to hire you." I said, "Okay, I can change." He said, "Okay, come dressed differently because I like to hire you, but look what you're working in." I said, "Okay." So I come the next day. He said, "You didn't do any better. You're still dressed."
What did he want you to do?
He just wanted me to have clothes on that didn't look like it mattered if it got paint on it or if it got dirty. He said I kept dressing too well. And I kept saying, "But no, I'm not dressing." He said, "All right, I know what I'll do with you." And he said, "I'm going to send you out to deliver the buttons to the design houses." That was genius. That was my job. I didn't have to work on I didn't have to file and stay in the office too much. They let me do a little office work. But at the end of the day, when the buttons were done, you take it to the big company. And I would go I go behind those doors and see how everything was done. It was brilliant in that way. I'm thrilled to have had that experience. So how it started for us is like, yes, I started with the garment industry. Then I went off and became more working in different companies from low-end dresses to junior dresses and learned to become a sales girl. Learning I could sell anything. I could sell a button on a shirt or I could sell a car.
We know.
I'm good at selling. Right? So we do that, and then Willie Smith discovers me. Then I become that. The whole while we did the film is that as a Frederic really wanted to be able to capture a lot of my background as my family, what I came from, my family life, to give us so even though the film tells a story that's more fashion related, we never like to say the film is a fashion film. Yeah. Because there's so many layers.
There's so much going on.
So much more truth. There's so much more to it. And so we say it's fashion related. But he knew that there was getting to know me. He got to know me more through the film. Yeah. But got to like me over the 10 years that we were talking back and forth as interesting woman, an interesting person. You get to know more about the person. He wanted to experience also the getting to know me, and he wanted the audience to get to know me. So I don't want him to talk to my son's dad. He said, "No, I got to talk to Donald." I was like, "All right."
Well, I mean, that's critical. And she's tough. Like you have to be brave to challenge Bethann to say, "I'm talking to."
Oh, she was very open-minded.
Yeah.
Oh no, she would say no the first day, and then she would call the next day and be like, "Okay, maybe we can think about it."
Yeah, because I'm thinking always as a documentarian. To me, I'm a filmmaker too. Yeah. I just needed him or anyone before that to sort of help me to get there. I didn't feel so confident I could do it on my own like that.
Well, to know to trust him too. I mean, that's another. Relationships are so important.
And seeing his other films, I was very impressed with the other projects that he's done.
Amazing.
Yes.
I mean,
and he's so the audience, he's so like open to learn and see. Yeah. And as I said to him when we were selecting who he should talk to, because we needed to make it maybe a little bit more commercial because I'm not a known entity in the world. So the idea was to select people who were a little bit commercial, that people would recognize their names, but at the same time, make sure that I don't be in as the co-director, not to be in any of those interviews. I never heard anything until I saw the film.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So he was very like, okay, all right, you don't want to do, he said, that's a very good choice as a director. Because why? I want them and him to enjoy that moment, for them to learn from him and vice versa, and that they were free to say anything and talk about me not being there.
The only one was Stephen Burrows, where you wanted to be there to draw him in.
Because he's shy.
I was going to say Stephen is shy.
Very, very shy.
It was a very nice scene, the two of them together, like recollecting.
Yeah, but such a powerful designer. I mean, really, just so powerful.
And that's why when they did this little tribute to Stephen for his 50th year, Versailles, talking about him as a designer, and I spoke about it. I couldn't be there, but we did a video with different people who couldn't be there. And that's the one thing I told them. If you only know where, the actual lettuce edge, Stephen's mind. If you ever know that whiting and golden, that mesh that people now use, he created all that. He actually created the idea that you could take that mesh wrap that used to be for our grandmother's bags, he let you know that you could make clothes. The first dress he made, put on Jerry Hall. All those little things that they're making now, all copies from him.
Yeah.
I mean, the things
and they don't even
know it. And this is the thing. And that's what's so important about having voices that still know things to sort of like be documented, to share.
I agree. I think, I think the 70s, I think there was something in the air, something in the water, something in New York where original creativity on every level, from window designs to clothing to interiors, the amount of creative energy in this city, I don't think I've seen repeated again. And it was only meant to be a certain period in time. And it was that time where creativity was coming from places that nobody had ever seen before.
Exactly. I mean, the fact that even when something like Studio 54 happened, because for me, I was anti-Studio 54 even opening. To me, it was all about dance clubs. Dance clubs were cool. Dance clubs, you could go there. Nobody had a liquor license, so you could go there, you smoke a joint, you drank water. No dancers drank alcohol. So here, this place called Studio 54 is going to come. At this point, people are saying, all the Europeans who used to come to New York are saying, oh, New York is dead. Every so many years, people say New York is dead. I've been hearing this all my life.
Yeah.
Oh, New York is dead. Nothing's happening here. New York is passé. And then Studio 54 opens up. And everybody wants to come. And they all did. And in that time frame, from a Giorgio San Angelo, I'm telling you, people that no one even knows anymore.
Then everybody knew.
Everybody, all were creative. Yeah. I mean, Halston was just one of them.
Yeah.
He brought something, every one of them brought something different. And then people like Issey Miyake wants to come to.
Everybody came here.
Wants to come and show their clothes. They want to be here. And that's the genius of that. Because there was so many, like you said, so many good creative people.
It was such a great time. And so many of our friends, that are not with us anymore.
That's right.
Were part of that time. And I miss them. I think about it and I think living around so many people that was so creative.
Yeah.
It just opened you, every pore of you, everything.
Because you weren't alone. That's the thing.
You could just let it pour out.
That's right.
And there
so supportive.
Yeah. And now it's different. It's fabulous now, by the way.
Yeah.
I love what's happening now, but it's a reverse of that kind of creativity.
It's a vacuum. It's very different.
I think I always want to know, I remember when I was 6, I had an idea of who I was, what I wanted, and I knew I was aware of the influences. When did you have a sense of, Bethann, this is who I am?
Oh, that's interesting. Never had that. But as I was starting writing the book, I wrote one point, Jesus Christ, going through my beginning of my life, that I already knew I was successful by the time I was 12. I had done so many things because I was a latchkey kid. When your mother goes to work, my parents were my mother and my grandmother. They go to work. They leave my clothes out. My mother would. When I come home from school at 3:00, I could then, open the door with the key on my neck, put my play clothes on and go into the street and live. So the great thing about that was really watching myself from gang fighting, running track, becoming a well-known child tap dancer, all these things, the freedom of doing all this on your own, not designated by your parents.
Yeah, or sent to play dates.
No, none of that. No. That would wear me out if I was as a parent.
We were in the street.
We're in the street. I mean, the idea that my mother would come and say, so what'd you do today? And I'd report to her. And I was going to go, I've met this tap dance teacher. Where'd you meet this tap dance teacher? They were asking me things. Where you going Sunday? Going to another church? I was always meeting friends who had families, who had churches, who went to church. And my parents didn't go to church. They played cards on Sunday. And the end of the day, these things were so valuable to me that I now look back and say, so by the time I chose not to go to that high school, performing arts, which was so hard to get into, and go to this white school. This white guy came in and introduced into Bedford-Stuyvesant Junior High School, this school. It sounded so interesting. And then you think back as you're an elder, how did your mind work like that you knew to make those choices?
Yeah.
That comes from spirits.
Well, part of it is intuitive survival.
That's
right?
exactly right. You don't even know that it is.
No.
It's your destiny on top of everything else.
Yeah.
So that's why now I can look back and say, yeah, I could see how I was, how all the kids, when they had problems, they come talk to me, Bethann, so-and-so, she's messing with me. And when I went to high school, going in a white school and being selected as the person who was going to head this thing that we had to compete and win both times because I was ahead of it all. The all white high school.
You know your leadership skills early on.
But you don't know that there's a leader. You don't know that.
But it's happening and you're aware, and it's making an impact on, I can make that. I remember making up one day. We were always out in the street, a whole bunch of girls, and I remember we would put taps, tap dance taps on our shoes, and we would scrape down the street and make noise with our ponytails and looking like idiots.
We had that tap dance too.
And so I remember one day we're all hanging around in the park and doing nothing, and I made up a game. I said, let's play this game. And I just made it up. I don't know what I was thinking. I made up the game. Everybody played the game. And then they said, do you have another game? And I thought, okay, I have another game. And I was making it up. And then I became the person that was organizing
these things,
what people were going to do.
Yes.
And I remembered that, like you remembered, and I thought, how did I become in charge of the games? And I'm doing it every day. The game is, we're going to make clothes.
Yeah.
And you're going to do this, and then let's see what happens in the game, right?
Wow.
So you live out this child. But the question I have is the influence of the mother and grandmother, really incredible in completely different ways, I think.
Truly.
Who do you think had the biggest influence on you, like personally on you?
It's the three of them. I think my grandmother, because she made me, my grandmother and my mother, both of them, living together with them, and how my grandmother you could tell my grandmother just didn't appreciate my mother. And that was kind of funny to me. And my mother was so reckless in a very good party girl way. That was genius because she was so cool, my mother, she would put on a raincoat over her nightgown and go into the street to run to the store. My grandmother would find out about that and say, did you walk out of this house with just your nightgown on? Don't you know you could get hit by a car and if you be just, okay. My mother,
and are you wearing clean underwear? Yeah, you can get hit by a car.
My mother would do things and she'd go out in the street and she'd get so stuck because she was very popular and stay on the street for hours with a nightgown, with a trench coat. But my leaving them and them giving me the freedom to be that person until I was 12.
Yeah.
Then going to live with my father and having the intellectual input.
Yeah.
That was next level. That was so I think all three that I really honestly come from the fact that my grandmother made me believe, live your life, be thoughtful, but you're going to die. That's genius.
Yeah.
If people say, she told you that at 7, 8 years old?
No, actually,
that was tell you at 2 if you can get it in your head.
Yeah, that was genius because it puts term limits right on.
Yeah, right on. Don't nelly around. You can do anything you want, but you're going to die.
Yeah.
So be prepared.
I love that.
That is a genius thing to me. And the fact that my mother was someone who was she'd go to parties with me and she'd, and Sophie, one of the boys would come up to her and they start looking at her like she's young and start grinding on her. And she said, and she'd have this kind of way of talking about it afterwards. So cool. And I like meeting her at the train station. There was just so many genius things about her.
Yeah.
Her taking me to her bars, at late at night because she didn't have a babysitter. And my grandmother's like, you're going to take care of her. And she dragged me to the back end of a bar. And I just love so much of that. That's so much culture when you grow up in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
There's so much more. And then to go live with this father who is like an imam and he's someone who really basically is there influencing bevy of people, from McCoy Tyner to Dakota Staten. I say Malcolm X, but he was just one.
Yeah.
He was so many people who were embracing at that time, Islam at that time too. And he was like, he was the imam at that moment. So it was really and he was a cool guy. He was handsome and he had a nice swagger. I was just impressed with him, for sure. Only mistake I say I make in the film, and I think I told this to Frederic afterwards, is that in my interview of the film, I allowed, because I say so, that my father was so strict. It wasn't him, it was his wife. I didn't put it on her. I put it on him in a way, and I don't know why I got so caught up on that. But I really always want to say, take it back when I can, that it wasn't him that was so strict, but he was respecting the wife that let him allow
interesting.
me. I was a stepchild to a woman who didn't want me to come, but but she had respect for her husband.
Yeah.
And then she just gave me a hard time, and he was trying to balance it, between the two of us. I think I'm very happy with that life that I lived in growing up, really, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that it was so different, that the balance of it really gave you an open mind about different philosophies of life, different lifestyles. And, I remember also, when you live in a neighborhood, for your mother to go out in a nightgown with a trench over it, it's not so
normal.
People don't get that it's not so crazy. And that going to a bar with a kid is not so crazy. Because that's, there's no babysitters and, money to pay people to do, what?
It's normal.
Come with me, and everybody's going to look out for that kid.
That's right.
Nobody's going to take advantage of that kid.
Oh, the neighborhood was very true. And I want to say one thing too, living every summer of my life in North Carolina, in a small rural community, was very, very important. To be a city kid every summer going with your grandmother to the small little environment.
I love that.
Yeah, that was everything too.
And did you go to church there?
We went only because of it. As I said, my grandmother and my mother both were, they believed in God, and they were both Baptists, but they weren't church-going people. But when we go to North Carolina, there'd always be someone who said, "Oh, Carrie's come home. We got to go to church." And she'd do it out of respect.
Yeah.
But she was never someone who you got to go to church. Now, that was interesting about my grandmother.
Yeah.
She was a unique woman. Yeah. Very interesting. I think, I didn't want to go back and read the part of my book that the publisher said, but I keep thinking as I write now, I wonder if I'm repeating things, because then life starts to tell you more things since you started writing the first part.
I think you're right. And I think the more you think about it, but I kind of look at, and I saw this with Andre too, that a lot of your roots and my roots and people from our generation really have to do with the community. And the community often gathered in a religious, whether it's church or things like that. And prayer was kind of sort of things that tied people together. Right. And I and my mother wasn't very religious, but we were part of the community, and we did all of those things. And I think that was such a big part of the feeling of belonging as a kid, even if you're a single mom, or there's a community that is looking out for you.
Yeah,
and if you pray with them, or you're in a place with them, that there's a certain energy, which is why I was talking about doing breath work. Yeah. It's a kind of prayer.
Yeah,
it's a kind and the word prayer almost needs to evolve to another level right now. But I think that's so valuable that you did that and had those memories, and people understand what we experience as community. Was a completely different, your mom, in my neighborhood. That was going out with your trench of it. That's
because it's so tiny. The environment is so tiny, and that's very true. And I think also for coming from neighborhoods like that, you get an opportunity to know that if your parents are not around, the neighborhood is still taking care of you.
Absolutely.
So that's when I would get in trouble because there was a huge gang fight on our street. And, my mother never had to know anything because she wasn't around.
Yeah.
But the neighbors saw it happening and it was to them more violent than normal.
Yeah.
And so they told her, as soon as she said, anything happened today? And I said, no, everything's fine. My mother said, Joy, you want to sit down and talk about what everything fine sounds like? Yeah. So that's when you get to hear that the neighborhood and they say, Bethann, you better get in this house. I'm going to tell your mother. And you think they're not going to tell.
No, they do.
Because it's hours later.
No, they do. They do.
They do.
But that there's something so wonderful about that I think today would be such an important part of every kid's childhood. I just treasure that.
Me
and
too.
This story is it's so great. When you talk about gangs in New York, growing up in Manhattan or in any of the boroughs, there were gangs in each neighborhood.
That's
and
right.
There were ethnic neighborhoods. And I grew up in an Irish Catholic, obviously not Irish Catholic. We were oddballs there, but the Italian Harlem was, there was German and Italian Harlem, Spanish Harlem.
That's right.
Harlem. And each area had your own gang.
That's
and
right.
We had the Irish gang and they were fierce. Each of the gangs were fierce. They were always fighting the Italians and the Italians would come to us with chains and knives and like it was West Side Story for real. And it's hard to even imagine that now, but it was really, you didn't go out of your neighborhood.
You just didn't. That's what I say to people. It's not like gang fighting the day where they just shoot people.
Yeah.
Nobody had guns.
This was
this
thing.
was knife and beating up.
Everybody knew everybody else. And I remember going to Italian Harlem to get my ears pierced with my girlfriends. And like, what? You did what? Like you go into this territory to get your ears pierced.
You don't do that.
It was when you said gangs, I thought people don't really understand
part of the culture.
that this was just part of life.
Yeah.
And it's different from the gangs of today, which are just another entity.
Yeah.
So you're on your own and you're developing this persona, this desire to kind of be your own person and I don't even think you had probably a plan. You just like did it, right?
Yeah, no, sure.
And what was the job or opportunity that made you feel like, oh wow, I think I'm making something happen here. Like, what was that? There's
first
some
time
things,
that I recognized something like that. I think for myself, the fact that I, got like as a model, got discovered by the Mexican designer when I went to Mexico City with Chuck Howard, and then discovered by Sixten Hergard, who became like the boyfriend, lover, from Stockholm, Sweden. Those things were just experiences in life.
Yeah.
I think when I really felt like I was being made, and once again, made to do something was when I started the model agency. I think that was something that was huge for me because I didn't have, I knew I didn't want to have fluorescent lighting, as I say. I knew to have a certain space of type when I was being made to do it. I think succeeding at that, and every little step, I made a little success. And Bonnie Berman was the one who founded the money, and the talent, model talent, was willing to wait for them to get paid and take the risk with me. That was major for me.
Yeah.
And I thought that they really respected me and liked me that much and believed in me that much that they would be like a partner. That hadn't been done in the model agency business.
Yeah.
The model industry, you pay the models before you receive the money. It's called the voucher system. They were willing to do that. And I had this new office that everybody was writing me up because I was in this place called Tribeca. the triangle below Canal Street.
Mm-hmm.
And street is not Northmore, it's Nathaniel Moore, but no one knows that because they see the
right.
M. Yes, right?
Oh my God.
They're like, Northmore, okay, where is it? And if you go 2 blocks outside of Northmore, nobody knows where Northmore is because there's only 3 blocks,
Yeah.
Right? That finding it that space and getting that wonderful loft space and doing this on your own with no business partner. You only had 2 years of working at another model agency as just a booking person. You didn't have the business sense of it, how it all worked. And the fact of doing that and succeeding at it, that's huge.
Yeah. I think, what year?
I started in 1984.
Wow.
And I kept the model agency part of it up until 2005. 1996, kept the model agency up to 1996, 13 years about. And then I kept the office until 2005.
And so
that was
your idea and the concept behind your agency really was unique and historic. I mean, it wasn't that it was just unique. It set the tone for the way things were just going to be.
Yeah, the little boutique agencies that come along. And then mine wasn't also, I was a unique in that sense when you say the uniqueness of who I am, that I do have visions in ways, but I don't think, but I knew I wasn't going to have a black model agency. Well, that wasn't going to work because I knew that I was here to compete with my white counterpart. I was here to change the game.
Yeah.
If you're going to change the game, you got to go up against your competitor.
Yeah.
And that's what I knew to do. I made sure that that's how it was going to go down. And I would definitely have black kids, Latin kids, and Asian kids in it. But nobody was doing that then.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to represent them, but I was going to lead with a primarily white product.
Yeah. I mean, that's what was so brilliant about it. I think people now assume that you had this is going to be black. This is going to be.
That's right. They did.
But now you have to be much smarter to understand that if you're going to be successful, you have to be strategic.
Yes.
You have to do good for everybody.
That's right.
And that was really so clever and so smart. That's like business school mentality. And it's like a business education that you somehow got from, I don't know where.
Yeah, that's what I think about when things come out from the stratosphere. You're just meant to do certain things. Your mind works a certain way.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly am so grateful too that I didn't continue with the film, like for instance, to go backwards to that, with who I was doing it with before, because I was telling a different story. It didn't make sense. Let me try it this way. But to, have been talking to someone like Frederic, and then things are just meant to be. When you hear that expression on things, I guess it was meant. Yeah, but you almost, when things are meant to be and they become that, you almost want to dig into how was it meant to be. You want to go into like the A&I of it all and try to see how the working of that.
But your business, I'm sure you saw her business sense and her, strategy is unbelievable. And
she's very smart. So that applies to every sphere,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really impressive because it's a smart that, it's intuitive smart, but it's also you observe and absorb, obviously. What were some of I'm sure there's a million, but what were some of the cases where you saw strategy and her kind of sense of that being clever, but not even, you realize it was clever after?
Let's see.
I know.
Actually talk about.
The ones you can.
No, I mean, Bethann has a very cool way of like knowing how to approach certain, what to prioritize when we wanted to be on the silver screen from the beginning, I make theatrical films. It was important for Bethann to be in the theaters. And so how do you do that? When you're at Sundance, you don't have a distributor yet. And then you have your sales agent. It's a very complicated game, especially when we debuted because the whole movie industry was in crisis.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
Yeah.
Somehow, Bethann was making a lot of connections. She always says she doesn't tell me until it's a done deal. So she likes to sit on the egg, until the egg is ready to hatch. And so
I was going behind the backs of the agents and the people that they're talking to. I'm making calls to them and saying what's really going on and finding out what our real situation is, because it was crumbling.
Especially if you're used to being in control.
Yeah, but you can at least get into at least you're in the game.
Yeah.
When you're outside of the game, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. I mean, that's all I had to say. I mean, this was very smooth and done very nicely, and it all worked out because obviously we had a great release and we were with Magnolia Pictures, which is, the dream come true. And it happened because, but also Bethann thinks things are destined to be a little bit. And, and in different choices we're making, like our composer, for example, Bethann was I feel that's who we need to work with. That's who, is destined to work with us.
It's a lot of little things, you do pull together. You also are trying to, as being a manager of talent, even though this is the point, this is something I want to do all my most adult life, always wanted to tell story, and being in film manner. This is what I want to do. I want to document and do things. But this is talent to me. And so you want to sort of give this talent the opportunity to do the best for he's coming because he believes in you. So you want to find, okay, who can I get? He says, can you get a producer? I got to go out there and get the producer. And I get a really great producer. And I was shocked that she said yes right away. I said, whoa. So I introduced her to them while I'm away. They meet. He likes her very much. That's good.
And the producer is?
Elisa Cortez. Thank you. And the other thing that we were able to do is for the music, I have a very strong connection with part of the Sade band. So Andrew Hale, I talked to him about music and needing a composer, and he's go, well, and his wife says, you should be the composer. He says, no, wait a minute. There's someone else I think that worked with us with Sade. And he gives me the name of our
Mark Anthony Thompson.
So then I introduced him to them because you want to help give him all the opportunity to do happily.
Yeah.
Because he too is very strategic and very intellectual about his choices. So we get this guy, and if he likes him, then it's going to work. If he liked the producer, it's going to work. Yeah. He liked talking to Mark. Mark was so excited to the opportunity to work with me, to work. He had seen your films already. So these things.
Also, you knew his daughter.
Yeah, and I knew Tessa Thompson, the actress.
But even more, what I think is obvious is while you were storytelling, while the story was storytelling, his visuals tell stories, right? Everything you've ever done, the way you shoot, the way you set things up, the eye is being told a story. I don't know if I'm saying it properly, but I've been a fan of yours because I've always thought, even in silence, there's a story. And so much of what you do, some of the subtleties, some of the nuances, the way, just some of the shots and some of the way we were presented, that was another layer that I thought really beyond your words, beyond your acting, which is you, beyond that, then there was this visual that really was so great and so warm and just embracing and respectful, but still incredibly honest. I think all of the things for mother and son and that was so important because every mother, and I'm not a mother, I'm a coward. Yeah. I didn't think I could do.
I didn't either.
I didn't think I could do. No, but every mother wonders, are they doing the right thing? Are they now more than ever? I think it's even more difficult. But telling that story of your relationship with your son and being a mother and being a pioneer and being brave and doing all of these things. How did you do that? At a time that I was right in the middle of too, thinking, I don't know how I'm going to run a business as a woman.
I know.
And you're thinking, how am I going to do all of these things and be a mother and do all of this? It's profound, that story. And I know it was so honest and so pure. I think about how many women with children saw that and felt,
yeah, we had a lot of that.
My heart, I feel this.
Yeah,
I feel
a lot
this.
of Q&As.
That was a very big deal that was a part of the film.
Yeah.
I thought that was really special.
A lot of people felt that way. Yeah, we got that a lot.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because that was bold. And I think not only the way it was shot,
with Kadeem, I mean, he just trusted us and revealed, but it's Bethann who initiated it because she would confide in me when Kadeem, disappeared. And so that trust, and I'm like, okay, this needs to be part of the story. And then I want to hear Kadeem's side.
And it was interesting because during this time, once we had begun to go on this journey, he became someone who became like a father confessor. I would just talk to him about, and this was not like based on a friendship. This is based on, this is my guy now. This is my guy. And
he has to know what's going on
with me in general. And I'm never thinking it's going to be part of the film. I mean, they told me when I was making this, acting TV debut, as my other film was different, of course.
Lightning,
the Black Lightning for television. And I had to keep going down to Georgia to do this.
That's right.
Right. And they told me by the third episode time I had to go down, then they changed it because it was during COVID. So now you have to be, incubate for like a week. You go and get tested 3 times within that week. Then you go to shoot. And by the second time they tested me, they said I was tested positive. And I was like, no way. Then I couldn't leave the room. I couldn't go outside.
Oh my God.
I had to be in, and he was one of 2, I told 3 people, you, Susan from Gucci, and Lisa in Chicago. And I told him, the idea that I would tell him is because it's going to have some sort of effect on the film, or maybe I just need to keep talking to him because he became my father confessor, so to speak. It was interesting in that way that you were getting to trust this person to be your person. And he really was cool. He sent me flowers, and each person that I told did just those things. They were helping me to survive.
Yeah.
And I basically didn't feel any symptoms. That's when you get the dance move when I'm dancing salsa. Because every day I told him, I make sure that my oxygen level is good because I dance 2 songs of salsa back to back to make sure I can still breathe right and everything is fine. He said, you gotta send me you dancing. I go, oh, here he goes again.
No, that's so good. That's so good. And also your son. Was, I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but everybody fell in love with him.
For sure.
That's the way it was, just without a second,
set up,
like that's it.
Yeah.
And that was so important, so great.
So true.
The idea of being responsible for an agency and for every person in that agency is really huge, because it's not a product you're selling.
Yeah.
It's human beings.
That's right.
Who are trusting you, are hoping they can pay the rent and more as a result of what you create as an opportunity for them and more. How did that, I mean, I know the burden of that in one way, but it's not human beings. So what is that? What's that experience about? I can't imagine how, when there's difficult times, what happens in your head, or if you even sleep with that. Tell me about that.
I think, the idea for me was that when I would take on talent, the first 7 that I had started out with was my backup band in a way. Those kids are the ones that said, we'll take the risk. Wow, that's some love and some respect, right? So I had Nick came, and God bless him, he's gone. and Ariane Kazumi, Bonnie Berman, Angela Alvarado, Gina Figueroa, and Mariama. I had these 7
That's a
kids.
good group.
Yeah, and they were all mixed.
That's a good group. Yeah.
And, physically what they look like and all. I had them. They were good. The ones after that, anybody who came to the agency, I interviewed like 2 or 3 times.
Oh, yeah. So
I would come, they would have to do an interview with me, and I would just talk to them because we were small and I couldn't just take everybody.
Yeah.
And I would make sure they understood that they weren't working for me, I wasn't working for them, and that we were going to be partners. Anything they didn't like in the agency, they must come tell me. If some of the agents weren't being nice, always remember, I got your back.
Whoa.
And so to help educate them about, I'm not big on this model fashion stuff. Let's think broader. What else would you like to do? Would you like to be an actor? Would you like to be a creative director? Would you like to build furniture? I wanted them to feel that we're just passing by, because I'm just passing by. This is not how I want to be remembered. Yeah. And I want you to feel the same way. This is just a moment. Don't get caught up in this. And let's just be all honest. And I think doing that was so good, because even when they had to leave me because someone poached them, another agency, it was so interesting how they would have to write me and feel so bad. Then we had faxes. So you get a letter by fax. Right? Nobody had the courage to come and tell you or call you on the phone or, come see.
And it would fade anyway.
Especially telexes. The telex was even before. So then, but they all had such great respect. So I think for me, it was like making sure I built something that was more than the average Joe. I didn't want to have, these people who had no problem letting these kids not get paid. No, I didn't have that. My accounting, we were so blessed that people made sure they paid us.
Yeah.
There was something in the juice of Bethann management, in the air of Bethann management, that people respected.
Yeah.
And if they ran out of money, they would let us know, but they all try to pay us.
Yeah.
And so my kids didn't get paid. And if it did, we all took the hit. That was rare though. And I love the fact that I was so honest. And I'd see all the emails now. The people are so proud of me. The fact that they were with me, and they say she was the best agent. I was with her. And it just makes you know that you do the right thing. This is someone else's. You see, for me, it was always someone else's child. Mm-hmm. There was someone's parent, and some parents I knew because they were introduced to me by some way. And I kept that always in my head. This is someone's, and you have to educate these kids beyond them being models. Don't let them get stuck being a model. That's not the average model mentality.
It's a doorway to something. But what you did there is you created a community. You created that neighborhood where the neighbors are going to take care of you.
Oh, yeah.
And that carries forward. All of these things.
And we were unique. I mean, we were in a place called Tribeca.
Yeah. You were incredibly unique.
Yeah.
To the point, to make your point, that everybody was aware of it.
Yeah.
The uniqueness and respected it.
Yeah. No,
so I think there was a generosity of spirit that you had that others didn't at that time. And the talent you had were really unique and talented. Nobody was doing you a favor booking them. Yeah. They really were unique.
Yeah. I learned from Stephen Meisel that he told me a long time ago, that I had a good eye. And I was so surprised to hear him say that. He said, you have a very good eye, Bethann.
Yeah.
That made me really feel like, okay, I really have a good eye.
Yeah.
But the kids I had, everyone could say, there were certain kids I took because they needed to be someplace. That I knew, I would say to my agents around the table of booking, I said, no, don't give them a hard time. No, they're not going to be the one that's going to get Vogue and Mademoiselle and work with Stephen or Bruce Weber or whoever. Just, they need a house and they're nice. Be nice to them. Don't act like they're not important when you pick up that phone.
Yeah.
It's a lot of educating every component of a company when you work with people and human beings. Every part of it. It changes the game.
Yeah.
The messengers who messengered. First of all, in the beginning, I had Kadeem as my messenger because I couldn't afford anything. And he was running around. But also, I had the girls, as he said in the film, they lived in my house. So he was happy. He was a teenage boy. So well, he was my messenger. But then even having the messenger service, you treat the messengers good.
Everybody,
everyone has to be educated to see that from the leader. That, if the guys come in, they're sweating, running around. You say, you need some water, guy? Oh, man, you got some water for me? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You just be nice to everyone, because someone said to me recently, how do you want to be remembered? If you say, please don't let it be that Bethann had a model agency, that was on, please. I say that in the film. But really I'm just remembered that I was compassionate.
Yeah.
Compassion was the name of my game. And trying to make sure that we add that to every bit of energy that in the human being. Like you said, if we can just breathe together. You're talking about breathing together, how important. That's how I felt my film. An audience of people have to see this together, because it's contagious.
Yeah. No.
When you watch something together.
Yeah.
I went to see a film last week. I went to see two films this weekend. And I don't care how big the theater is. I don't care there's only 8 people in the theater. I'm so happy to be in that theater to hear Hans Zimmer's music come. I just want to still compete. I want to keep giving to that world where we sit and watch a film
share
together.
An experience together. Yeah.
I don't want to give up on that, and I'm going to keep going to the movie theaters. I don't care if it's $21 and I don't have a senior rate.
But
I'm going to go, but that's my world.
But then film lives on.
Yeah.
And I think the best part of film is that people will be able to see this anytime in the future, and that it will impact each generation that sees it in a different way.
Yeah.
And but the idea of compassion, the generosity of spirit, that if that can get communicated at a time that we're in right now, where I almost feel people are afraid to have generosity of spirit.
Well, that's because they're not educated with it.
They're protecting something. Like everybody is afraid to just be themselves or to be vulnerable or to be honest. Yeah. And I'm so concerned about that. And I really don't know how to deal with it. I think I know how to deal with it in my world. Yeah. But why is this happening, Bethann?
It's really very,
why is it happening?
Well, 2 things I want to say. One is, when it comes down to the film, we do hope, and this is my objective, and that's why I have to keep trying to keep my energy up for it, is that the film will, yes, it will be on Hulu for 3 more years. Okay, that's its home, or whatever the amount of time that we have has been negotiated for. But the film has to be in an institution that is, that is there for the rest of, infinity, so that people can see this film at will. Yes. That's one thing. The other thing about the question about why do you think certain things like this is happening, or how can be, is because the education, like we were talking earlier about how we came up in neighborhoods, how we came up in cultures and communities. We come from small environments. Nobody thinks they're anything important. Right. You know what I mean? Your mother says, go out and play and be home by this time. You did that. Right. Nobody was staying all over your back. They're not trying to tell you what to do the whole time. You knew not to mess around. Yeah. Right? There isn't that sense in these couple of last generations of making kids not feel like you're worried about their what we call it, when they have their sensibility of self. We're not trying to develop so much of that. We're trying to teach them the right way of moving through life. Their self-esteem is not what's important right now. No. They don't have any self-esteem. What you have to do is put certain things in them. And we're not doing that. So now people have their heads down. They got things in their ears. They got things on their head. They're not really basically being educated to that. They're not being educated like they don't have much. You see? They're missing
this moral content of, that gives you, that kind of guides you to just, is this right or wrong? Does this feel bad to me, or does it feel good? Yeah. And
people want to be successful. Yeah. They don't know that success means cutting the next guy off. Or I can beat him tomorrow. And There's no patience in life. So
Yeah.
they can't help it. It's comes with the territory. Technology has helped us to be the truth. So we now have to, those who are aware of it can just suffer back and lean back. And if you're old enough, you don't worry too much because you think, I'm not going to be here too much for this shit.
Yeah.
Because that's how I see it. I really literally look at it like that. I'm so sorry for the rest of you all.
There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear right now. Young people are protected because they don't have the equipment. They don't have the information and the experience as a child to deal with some of these very harsh realities that we're facing. And that's why you say, you know, I don't want to be here to see what's going to happen, because
you can see what's
you don't want to see these people destroyed, and you want to protect them because we come from communities where you're going to run out and you're going to hug this kid. And I want to hug, I'm sure you feel the same way. So many of these young designers or people trying to, I just want to hug them.
I want to say that I want to tell them to stop, get off the train, and get on a bus. Because at the end of the day, believe you me, it's not all it's cracked up to be. I know that's the only thing you think you can do, but I bet you 10 to 1, if you think about something else, there's something else you can do. And I honestly, sweetheart, I really am thinking really truly about how we all are trying so hard to really put our best foot forward and tell other people how to. I cannot even afford to worry about what's going to happen. I'm upset that I'm not more vigorous about with the upcoming elections. I am someone who's always been so political. And even though I'm still political in my home, listening to public radio and knowing everything that's going to go down, I don't know if I have what I used to have to go out there and be gangster. I do want to, because we got so many months to help turn it around and make sure that we at least let them hear, even if you do nothing more, at least get on a radio or an Instagram or something and say, do you know this is exactly what happened generations ago, where people just didn't believe it could happen?
Yeah.
Just if I could say that to them, when I find the time, maybe I will learn how to do Instagram talks or whatever the fuck it is, and just at least feel like I didn't do nothing. Yeah. Because I've got to say something. Yeah. And I'm more of a, gangster fighting, guerrilla punch shove physical person than just breathing. I know that's going to help me. That's when you come to microdosing or something else. But the idea right now is basically to get on a call, to get out there, because I can't get on the bus and go all around like they used to do and make sure everybody they did when they wanted Obama to get in. It's not going to be like that, but we've got to at least let our voices be heard that this is change is getting ready to happen. It's not going to be to your betterment. Yeah. Betterment.
I think that the social media is so powerful that there's the train left the station on this. Oh, yeah. And, I think it's going to where it's going to go. And that's why a lot of people are just observing now, because it just looks like it's done. Yeah. The plan is there. It's done. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
No, but just to say what you're saying, I don't think that they think that. I don't think they think that far. I don't even think that they know how to think that far. That's the reason why I'm so proud of the students. That's why I'm so proud of boycotting demonstrations, because I used to get so worried about here in the United States. I was saying for the last 5 years, 10 years, where's the students? Where are the people standing up like they used to?
Where's the music? Where's the music that had
I don't know about that part. I'm gangster trying to change the way.
No, but do you know what I mean? Like it was a lot of things.
A moment. Yes, bringing great songs came out of demonstrations and all. But I'm so happy for them that they're doing, and they're standing up because of what they believe in. And to say that they are more than what they are, they don't mean it isn't about, it's more anti-Zionism than anything else, but it's not about anti-Semitism. And I just am so happy that they're at least taking a stand, because it was so long that no one took a stand. So they're going to get shut down. They're going to get, they're going to pay the consequences of it. But it is it's prideful for me to see people stand up for what they believe. And they're not trying to fight. They're just trying to show you where they are. That said, I'm just very happy that I got my film out, that Frederic came out, that with the hope of believing that I couldn't have done it. And he said, I'm going to help you. I'm going to do it. Let me just finish this other film. I want to do this. Oh, good. I'm glad I was able to do it because it helped me to also learn a lot about myself.
Yeah.
And it helped me to understand, the limitations of self as well as the possibilities. And I'm just very happy to to know someone like you and I could have memories and thoughts about time on earth where we know certain things because we come up in New York City, that we basically come up from communities and ethnic people who basically all had cultures that we sort of like embraced.
Yeah.
So I'm really just happy to be here with you and knowing you as long as I have, to know a woman who basically just didn't know any better and kept going. She really didn't.
No, you just said that's it. You just determination.
That's true.
Determination.
You don't want to see.
Yeah. So New York really, I think, is such an incredible city. It's going through pains and lots of angst right now, but it really is the city that I believe is the place where you can make it.
Yeah.
You can.
Always been.
This is
You
it
grow up
for
here.
real. And that's why you're here. That's why people come here. And that if you're born in this city, it's your birthright.
Yeah.
Right? This is my birthright. I'm here because I'm supposed to be in a place where anything can happen and you can make it happen.
Yeah, like you with pencil. You did pencil.
Yep.
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 Yeah, the idea of really actually caring about high schools, because we come from high schools. We went to high schools, public high schools, and you cared about that. And you, what's that, 20 years ago you did that?
Yeah, I was part of Pencil, but then I started to do stuff on my own
On your
too.
own, and we did
Yeah.
Washington
Irving High School.
That's right.
And I set up a fashion room in my old homeroom.
Yeah.
And I had many years of students going through that classroom. And, you know, the public school system is tough. It's hard. It has a lot of problems and I think it's gonna heal and become stronger.
I do too.
I'm an optimist about that.
Me too.
And being a public school student, as we are, really is a unique experience, and we benefited from it. We really did. And we knew where to go to school. We're not going to go to that school because we can get a scholarship or something from this school. We had strategy. But I see that the day is going to come where a level playing field for every kid is possible through the public school system.
You know what they're
believe
getting ready
that.
to say? There's a politician out there right now talking about getting rid of the Board of Education.
Hello.
So, you know, this is such dangerous stuff.
No, but I think something radical will happen. Sometimes horrible things happen and amazing ideas come up through it.
Yeah.
And there are times where I thought I would love every public school building to just do this. So something new has to be built in a better way.
Right.
But the idea, the dream for me is that every kid can come into a school environment of some kind and feel that everything that they're going to receive was for them.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't for somebody else. It wasn't a different way. And it's just whether it's a child that doesn't speak English that comes into the system, or a New York City kid that's in the system, wherever that child should feel, this is the place that's going to make me equal to everyone else, because I am going to be as smart as the smartest. I can be as strong and powerful as the most powerful, because the tools I'm going to learn are going to give me that opportunity. Education is everything.
Yeah.
Everything. and how we teach kids to learn. Like you intuitively knew how to absorb information. You saw it. You were like radar. I'm taking that. I'm going to take, she said, I like the way she said that. And you absorbed. And with your own education, you learned how to be your own teacher. Not everybody is capable of that.
That's real. That's for sure.
But learning how to learning how to do what you do is part of education. And one of the things I realized that I could teach the kids was just how to learn, how to do simple things like learn about what's going on, learn how to read a newspaper, learn how to ask questions, learn how to find information. And then you own it. You own that power. So when you came to New York,
2002,
what was your dream? Like, what did you want? What was that?
I was making a U-turn in my education because I was an engineer in France. I had graduated from engineering school, and then I had decided to pursue my dream, which was to go to film school and make films.
Really?
And so I applied to all the film schools, and then I got into Columbia, and that's how I got to New York. So it was, an adjustment, but it was great. I remember landing in New York and thinking like the world was mine, and then I got mugged on the street immediately. It's true story.
Well, and how did you do?
Welcome to New York.
Exactly. Well, my friend was like, "Welcome to New York."
Did you get up and like, okay, I'm ready?
It was what was supposed to happen. Then I was like, "This is New York. You
need to be tough."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and what was the first film you did that made you feel like you could do this?
Oh, it was definitely the first professional documentary experience on Valentino, the Last Emperor. I was a co-producer and co-editor, but I started really at the bottom of the ladder as a production assistant. Like, my friend was producing the film, and I was spending the summer in Paris, and he said, "We're starting to film Valentino. Do you want to help rent the car and drive the car?"
Oh, nice.
But I discovered, like, running around Valentino's garden, outside of Paris in his chateau, that I just loved being a documentarian. I just loved having to capture the reality as it was. You never know what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
And that was kind of thrilling. So that was the moment where I decided documentary was more my speed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think documentaries now and even like podcasts and things like this are really the way people learn now.
It's always been that way. Documentary has always been a new form of news. I've said that for 25, 30 years. The point of it is that documentary making and investing and making it possible through all the channels that it used to be has become extremely difficult. And when I was speaking to my cousin, Harry Styles, he said that same thing to me. I told him, I said, when he talked about the film and how much he liked it. And he's so happy that we made it so others could see the story. Yeah. I said, yeah, because we came through a very tough moment, Harry, coming out of Sundance. It was a wave of like, whoa. Now, he said, are you kidding? It is.
And we couldn't do it now.
And he said that. He said, now it is. And he's in the music business.
Well, explain that.
He said, it is tough out there right now.
Yeah. So explain that because there was the strike and.
Not the strike. The strike is before.
The strike has definitely impacted negatively, but I think it's been going on for a long time. The consolidation of these different streamers. Now you really only have like 4 or 5 buyers, and all they're interested is celebrity, crime, cult, the 3 C's. That's what I've been told.
But the interesting thing about it too is that the cult,
where did you fit in the cult?
We would fall all this nonsense. But the culprit was really Netflix. It wasn't. That's just it was their nature. They just became successful at it, and then you have networks who want to compete with that.
Right.
So everybody wants to be a streamer, and they all throw all their money into it and da. But the market couldn't bear all of it. Netflix is way ahead of the game because they've been doing it for a long time. Yeah. So now it's the idea of like, these people saying, well, that's not so, it's not such a profitable situation now. So now that there's so many documentaries, there didn't used to be a lot of documentaries. There were a few documentaries.
Yeah.
Now everybody can make a documentary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you got to find those investors and you got to find those people who are distributors. And those distributors are fading away and investors are feeling less hopeful that they'll even see a dime. Before they said, I would take a chance. And every so often someone will hit someone with it.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, is this really even worth the game?
Really?
Is it looking worse and worse?
Really?
See?
No, it's totally true. I mean, it's unfortunate because now it's a lot of stories like we were trying to tell are not getting told anymore because everyone's risk averse.
We can't get a distributor in the UK. People say, oh, I can understand why not France. I still think it's possible for France. But at the end of the day, we can't get a distributor. UK has such a huge market.
That.
We can't get somebody. They can say, oh, we love the film. Can I get a hug? Oh, that bullshit.
Why? Because there's just no funding for it. There's no.
I think everyone's feeling kind of like the economic pressure and they just want to stick to something that's so safe. So big celebrities that everyone's heard about.
Yeah.
And we're not that. We're much more thoughtful. We're much more kind of.
It's, I mean, this is a timeless film that is not. It is not fast turning like Celebrity. It's a whole other level.
We're selling in other areas. So, the film is on planes. I was with a bunch of Italians.
That's a great idea.
And they said, the film is on what airlines? I said, Emirates. Emirates, we're going on Emirates tomorrow. Emirates.
That's great.
We can name the different airlines that has it already. So the film is going to have a life continuing.
And in museum films and in those studios too. I think having them, some museum theaters are really like great places. Oh yeah, no,
they're museums that will show the film, but that's temporary. I'm talking about a permanent house. That I'll get. I'm going to get that no matter what happens.
Well, but universities or what?
Universities we're going to have. We just came from universities last week. We did two in Washington State. The fact of it is what we're talking about is distribution in countries like we know we're going to have in Africa. Lord knows. Africa. So we have the Canada. We're going to sell Canada. We're going to also sell there are other regions that are selling too.
Scandinavia. We're going to be in New Zealand. So we're in a lot of
places like that. But the fact of it is, poignant places like UK. Come on, we can't. That's like because what he's saying, how they, or maybe black cinema, which is not, but to some people it might be. They can't get it in every single. If there's 100 venues or places that you can sell a film, maybe they get 40 for black. So that doesn't make it seem profitable to them. So I did need to talk to you about something because someone came up with an idea to me. Why don't we do it on our own? Is that possible? I'm going to speak to David about that and see how.
So how do you do that?
We already have.
You get funding for it?
No, this is what I want to find out. What he says. We already have a house,
exhibition
theater
that wants
to show it no matter what happens when we get distribution. That's one thing. And then a woman called me who wants to represent thing in a way in UK. She says, I would like to talk to Soho House because if you can't get a distributor, Soho House has so many houses around the world in Europe that I believe that I probably could get them to lease do something.
I think it's a brilliant idea.
She said, I thought it was a brilliant idea too. She said, I believe I could get them to house this film in such a way. If you can't get a distributor, I believe that because there's enough Europeans. So I'm going to talk to David and you about that too.
Yeah.
But the idea now, you got to hustle your bustle because the one maybe distributor we thought we could get, they're struggling.
Yeah. Plus, I think that there's an opportunity. For instance, we live stream every day our workouts. We can live stream anything. And so I'm planning a programming for live streaming about fashion and whatever, health and wellness and my stuff. Yes. But when I said to you,
years ago,
you have I have this space that friends can use. Yeah. But thinking on a bigger level, if you have live stream capabilities, like
this is a private environment. You can have people, you can have outside
We
people.
can have
No, you
300
understand what I'm saying when
yeah.
I say that. Having a movie theater is one thing. That's distribution to me. That's having, places around the world where the movie is in different cities or in six places in one city, whatever the case may be. That's what we have to do. That's what I want to do. That's what I need to do. Having private screenings, which is private, even if you have public people coming.
No, but live stream. See, I have live stream cameras.
Oh, so you're saying.
So there could be, and it's just an idea, but setting up a company that is a private live stream company of documentaries. Let's say that's what it is, a documentary live stream company. I have these 6 cameras. You could have cameras anywhere, right? Where you live stream your films on a calendar, the way we do our workouts, 12 o'clock in New York. It could be 8 o'clock in India, whatever. You can live stream the following films. It's like starting your own
TV channel.
But I think these rogue ideas come about when things
like
so,
you said,
like this is a dead end now.
Yeah.
This is a dead end. It's become a dead end.
Yeah.
It's not a celebrity. This has to be other level, other qualities. A PBS could do this, but they have an agenda.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a different agenda.
You create your own agenda.
But if it's documentaries, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And this is the genius that does things first anyway.
Yeah.
I think with what you need then is to get the word out, to get the have the people who can make that happen, be your partners. Then you get all the people who are doing documentaries that need a platform, which is everybody that's not a celebrity, in that.
Well, there are a lot of people who really don't even get distribution.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
And
wonderful
you know what?
It's
It's like
bottleneck.
everybody loves stories of people's lives, whether I know autobiographies, biographies. To me, my first go-to.
Yeah.
Right.
And with the Academy, like even with the Academy Awards, that whole campaigning, in order to even get selected by the Academy Award, you have to be already set up where you have done the right thing so you can get into the Academy.
But that's a celebrity.
No, but it wasn't a celebrity. We got in. We were part of it. But I'm just saying, but with that, there's so many.
You're a celebrity.
Yeah,
basically.
no, I'm not. But we had a film that we had enough of the right stuff. But there are films who just didn't even qualify.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably, yes.
Well, you said that, we're part of a lot that qualified, but there's a lot of films that didn't qualify to get into the Academy.
Yeah, because you have to have a theatrical release.
That's
Not
it.
all films
there you
have
go.
a theatrical
That's what I'm saying. So when you're saying this, there you go. There's a lot of stories out there that the films have been finished.
That are not being
that
told.
are not being seen.
So I think there's a real opportunity for live streaming this and creating a live stream channel and then having events in different cities where you do a live stream with an audience and you make it a thing. That's from these dates, like you're a comedian on tour.
That's right.
This is the tour of this is the, tour of documentaries. And this is
show a
who's
certain
gonna
amount in a certain.
I mean, and have speakers and people. It's like a constant Tribeca, except with a focus on stories.
Yeah.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not based on celebrity.
Yeah, it could be a celebrity, but don't get lost.
But it's not based on it.
Don't get lost
that
on
it's
it.
more on the quality of the film itself, the longevity factor of the film, and that there's a board of people that are making judgments on not the topic of the film, but what does this fit the group? Does it fit? And it doesn't have to have a political point of view. It just should be what will make this. I think we're desperately needing it because this is also the way people get educated.
Mm-hmm.
Your story is an education.
Yes, this is true.
For
I'm
so many
that.
people.
Yeah.
You can name from children to people who love fashion to
We get that.
a story about color,
Yeah.
a story
a
about
woman's story. It's about
New
when
York,
everybody says,
like
Yeah.
I mean, you have
civil
so
rights. I mean,
so
yes,
many
true.
of
Yeah.
power,
Parenting,
of
yes.
passion.
Everybody says that.
It's
true.
just the best education.
Yeah.
And I believe some of
It's
the
inspiring.
best films that you've done, or films that we love, are really biographies or autobiographies that are incredibly educational.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the interesting thing. That's why I said it's so nice that we had the opportunity that we did, that people believed in it from what we little that, even when Frederic said to me, oh, I got this letter from Sundance for this program, this called Catalyst program. You think we should try for it? I said, ooh, no, let's not do that. And he said, why not? Come on, just give it. I said, you think we'd get it? you think they'd be interested? He said, well, all we can do is try. Okay, so we put together, what's the prerequisite? Well, you have to have the bio, your budget, you do a little video, right?
Treatment.
Treatment.
And
all right.
all that,
So I said, okay, once again, the no and then the yes. Okay, let's go. And then they love us so much, right?
Yeah.
That they love us so much that they think we're going to be so well that they're going to say no to us now, right? Say no to us and give it to someone else that needs more help. So I thought that was the best rejection in life. My co-director and my producer like, bullshit. I'm like, isn't that the greatest rejection letter though? Right? And then what do? They came back and created another season that they'd never done before because they wanted to incorporate our project.
Yeah.
So these kind of things happen in such a wonderful way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? The idea of an independent sort of, I mean, it's an out of the box concept of, do you think there's
of streaming, you mean?
Of
live streaming. I think that could be interesting, especially if you had a talk afterwards because you have such a great setup, because you don't really need the cameras if you're going to be streaming a documentary. You could just air it like it's on TV.
No, but do that, and then you have people. But it's
you can have the filmmakers come in and then talk about it, create an event, around it.
And what I like about it is that the camera can go into your face and really.
You mean when you're having the event?
You talk about
when
it.
you're having the event. Yeah.
I think that involving people in the process, but having that a channel that is based on documentaries that are storytelling documentaries.
And let's see what's out there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be an interesting thing. And I think you can get funding for that. I think you can get a support.
I think in this world you can get funding.
And you're like films, and this is like films with storytelling. That's your MO, right? I mean, I think it's the most popular and the most, on again, educational and important for people to have access to, not just celebrity ones, but stories about people who have done incredible things. If true crime holds that much interest, this crime thing, and it's about bad stories, then think about all these other stories that are more intense and deeper. There just aren't enough of them.
Yeah, everything is on the eye and the ear of the beholder. So everything may not be worth for every single person, but it's nice to have the diversity of such. So that's always good too. You get the right curator who can really pull things together and dig and find. And I'm sure people would love their stories to be seen to others. Documentaries are, those people who make them are doing it from a point of passion. They know they're not going to make any money.
Well, having a group of people who do these films, employing them, because there are many stories to tell, and every story is so different that it's not competing.
Well, you can find them right now because they're out there. You don't have to spend any money for it.
And it's not competing because you could do one story after another, and they don't compete. They can have New York stories, or they can have similar things like that, but I think it's a very good category, like crime. They don't compete; they're all crimes, but they're very different
Yeah,
types of things. So this
sure.
is a category where it fulfills the viewer in a way that really is uplifting or inspiring, whatever that may be. And again, the educational aspect of it is priceless.
Right.
So.
All right, so you put an idea in our heads. We got to start working.
And I would love to help.
I know.
To see who else.
It's your thinking.
Because I love them. People are always asking me, when are you going to do? What are you going to? And I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm busy right now.
Yeah.
But I know a ton of people, like a ton of people that have great stories. There's just so many of them.
And the thing of it is that for me, like we say about, what's something that somebody asked me, like my foundation. I'm not interested in making money, getting foundation money to give designers money to make their businesses. I'm not ever getting to doing that.
No.
I'm not a hedge fund person. I would like to raise money to find business people to come in and be a source to the company, to the foundation once a year. They are committed to us, pay them $75,000 or $50,000 to sort of like keep educating the designers.
Yeah.
That's what I would want to do.
A board that,
not a board,
an advisory board.
No, hire outside people on the business that come in and you pay them to sort of like, that's what I want to raise money for. I don't want to, I don't want to raise money to give to designers businesses. Either you can keep up, but I would hire people, outside business people to come in and to work. That's my idea for the foundation. So it's the same thing with this film thing, the idea you have. I don't want to go out and make films. I don't want to do that unless somebody comes to me and says, you want to be a producer on that film? And it's they're already doing it really easy and I don't have to do much. But as far as like gathering, curating films that are already out there.
Yeah, gathering talent for making the film.
No, I don't want to do that.
Talent. No, but gathering talent, but having the people come together that have like thoughts.
I would rather find the films out there that need to be shown. That's what I would like to do.
Well, but
I don't want to make a film.
But that's the whole thing. There are opportunities all different ways.
You never know. It's true.
I think. And I think then people know where to go to if they want to fund these films, where to send the money or who to see.
Well, this is going to be interesting how the people now, it's so tight now.
Yeah.
It's really tight now.
They're tight, but people.
There's always going to be people, you're right about it.
People may not buy clothes. They may not buy things, but people need entertainment. And stories that are uplifting are critical at a time like this.
Yeah, but there's always money for things. I really believe that.
Money.
There's always money for things. It's just what is the money for that's going to make people say, here's your money. And I think I after watching this world, how it works, I lean back from doing it, but I understand if other people want to come up and give money and say, okay, you can come in and help that. I could see
if they know about it.
Yeah, they might do it.
I think that this is viable. So, now that we have only really begun, we're at the beginning now of something new.
It's true.
The joy of being with you guys. And of course, Bethann, I feel we're these soul sisters who are living in the present, in the fullest moment of the present, even though we have these pasts that go way back, that the present to both of us is really everything, right?
That's
it's really who we are now and how we feel.
Completely.
And that you found this magical partner here to do this incredible film that I think is going to be inspirational for a lot of people coming forward who really believe in storytelling. And I thank you both for sharing this time. I know we could do another 4 or 5 hours easily. So when we get this whole thing together, I think we'll have another conversation about it. But I'm open. I think it's really important